Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, we're going to look at pivot tables. Now, pivot tables are a great way to be able to group and view your data. What I mean by that is that you could use something like grade and group all of the grade into the pivot table in order to see only one or whichever grades. You could even group it by teachers because these teachers will have duplicate records within it. Now, when you actually see it, it's a little bit easier to understand this, but setting it up is super simple as long as you have good data already made. A way to show you a not great example would be if you do something like this. You can kind of see that there's a date, and then it is actually grouped by present, tardy, absence. And while this could be helpful if you're trying to go into a specific day and look at the absences or something like that, it's not helpful in the long term because you're going to have to make a lot of different columns that all pretty much have the same thing. A lot of times people choose it in a way like this because it does answer those questions. However, it is best practice to keep all of the different components in one long data like this, and then use a pivot table or some other formula to pull whatever information you want. So in this case, we're going to use a pivot table. Now, what you can do is you can select one of the cells, do Control A to select everything in that data set. You can go up to Insert, Pivot Table. Now you can see here the data range is selecting this specific A1 to F301, and that will not account for new data, both in records or rows going through, or fields like another new column if there's something new being added. So I'm going to actually cancel. And the next thing now with the tables that are present, setting this up as a table is going to greatly help with this connection to the pivot table. You can see here they pretty much have already chose numbers. They have drop downs here because there's only a certain amount of teachers. Same for presents. Date is set in the date, so if you click in, you can see. And then the full names are here, although I might not necessarily use that, although the names are all going to be the same. Basically, this is 100 students, and it's going to show 3 days of their attendance. That's kind of what we have here. Now I'm just going to click in here, and I don't have to do Control A to select it all. Push Insert, Pivot Table, and you can see here now it is selecting Table 1. And as the table grows, the data will automatically go with it. So I'm going to push Create, and here is the pivot table. So you can see the data is here, and there are some suggested ones you can already select. Now the main components are rows, columns, values, and filters. I'm going to start off with just rows. The data that we have in this one is going to primarily just be organizing it in a different way. And so I can use a row, and let's start off with the grade. When I select that, you can see here grades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the only unique values. You can do totals to show the grand total of it, or remove that. I'm going to add one more, which will just be the teacher. I'm going to put it below the row here, and you can see it goes grade and then the teachers. And you can see here there are 3 teachers for each one. I'm going to remove the totals, and then I'll just kind of bring it to here. I might even repeat the row labels to show it. Now the order does matter. If I switch the teacher to here, you can see that now it's alphabetized by the teacher name, and this one being for the Mrs., Mrs., Miss. They happen to kind of coincide, but it's not perfect there. And ascending and descending, but for now I'm going to put the grade on the top because that's more what I want. Now the next thing you might want is you might want some values, and you can either drag and drop or you can push add. Now values can be helpful if you are using something that has a number in it that you want to sum. In this case, in this example, there isn't one, so I'm just going to pick any of them. So I'm just going to do the attendance. And then from here, it'll now show the count of the attendance. Now, this is showing each person in the entire one. So if you look at all of these, it does show those 300, which would be the 3 days in that. You might want it even further. Maybe you want the attendance for each date. So I'm going to put in the rows the date. And now you can see that this is expanded even further. I might want to repeat the rows and not show the totals at the bottom. And now we have those. One thing you can do is you can show or collapse or expand. You can also right click and collapse all in grade. So now you kind of have this each day. That's the attendance. Then you can open it up, and this is where you can group. Maybe you want to see the attendance for 5th grade. You can see here, 5th grade, here's the teacher, and then these are the counts. Now, you might even want to go further and have this attendance include what they are. So I'm going to put that at the very bottom. And now you can see that Elephant Apple had 2 absents, 4 presents. Emu Berry, 1 absence, 3 presents, 4 tardy. And there, again, you're able to collapse or expand as you need. So this can be very helpful if you're asking for a specific day, and then you want a specific grade, specific teacher, and then the absence or what it is. Finally, for this, if you wanted, you can also do the full name of the student. I'm going to put that at the very bottom so we know who was absent, who was present. I'm going to just remove the show totals, but I do want to repeat the rows because this can be helpful just to know who's where. Maybe you don't want all of these, so I'm just going to collapse all, and then let's say absence. Note when you push that, it will show it for all open ones. So keep that in mind. If you're just wanting one, you'd have to do something like this and close everything, and then just open the singular one. Now you'd be able to drill down into that data and see it in a readable portion. Again, this is where when you have data like this, you'd be able to create pivot tables and answer those questions. Now again, the order does make a difference, and this would be one way I could certainly see someone using it. I'm going to go back to here and just create a new one. If I do this, insert, pivot table, I want a new sheet, and this will be pivot table 4. Now, the other one that we didn't show in the other is columns. Maybe you want the attendance to be in columns. So this will show absent, present, tardy, and then maybe you want it for the date in the rows. So this will show the date and then the status. Now for values, I'm just going to put the attendance again, because again, this is going to show the total attendance versus presence versus tardy. Has the grand totals. I might remove those grand totals. It's up to you. Maybe you want the ones at the bottom, and this will just show kind of that whole one. Now, if you have these rows, and then let's say that we want the grade as well, you'll still get it. You can see each grade, and then there's going to be the day total here because we chose that. Show totals. So again, it's up to you. This look is kind of nice, and you can see here, that the sum is correct for absence, present, tardy. This one can be a useful one for kind of a more holistic all-around snapshot. If you're going into it like to the full names, then it kind of, it can still be helpful, but it sort of defeats the purpose of having these columns and rows. But again, it's totally up to you, because maybe you do want to see it more in this way, or you have a report that will show it. The only one that we didn't show, a pivot table to show one thing. You can add filters, such as maybe you only want 1st grade. So if this report is only for 1st grade, you can do that, and now you only have 1st grade. Or maybe you want to range like everything in November now, but you don't want any older dates. You can add filters as well. And finally, it's not helpful in this one, but I used attendance for values. If you do have one, like let's use grade because that is a number, you can actually sum the number. So I'm going to remove this filter. I'm going to close all of this. And you can see here that what it's doing is it's summing them. Now again, we don't want to do that, because what this means is that if you're in 5th grade, you're absent for 5. And that doesn't make sense for this one. But if you had something like a payment, or how much money is due, or payroll, or any other sort of thing that you would want to sum, you can actually sum. You can do a lot of different components to it, the max, the min, the average, so on. What we've been doing is the counta, which you can still do with a number. It just shows how many in this column was there. And for this report of attendance, there should only be one in one of those three options. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, you can do a lot more with pivot tables, but I wanted to at least show these because I think this helps a lot of people be able to organize their data better and create reports that they need. As always, thanks for watching. Do those social things. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye now.